This is a message from Concept Safety Systems, Emergency Evacuation Solutions.
Fire and safety regulations can be difficult to navigate, and when it comes to practice evacuation drills, it can get all too hard. Today, I'm at Concept Safety Systems to talk to Eric Sheehan and set the record straight on practice drills in the workplace. Hi Eric, and thanks for talking with us. Firstly, are they mandatory? Do I have to conduct an evacuation practice drill at my workplace?
Yes, you do. The Building Fire Safety Regulation in Queensland and the Australian Standard 3745 requires that it's done every 12 months.
If I have a false alarm and occupants evacuate, can that be counted as a practice evacuation drill?
I've heard people say that before, but in my opinion, no, it can't. Because it wasn't a practice evacuation drill, it wasn't planned, it had no set objectives, the ECO weren't briefed, so it was a real thing. So technically, it's not a practice evacuation drill. You should really do a practice evacuation and record it.
Do I have to include all of the building, or can I just conduct an evacuation practice drill for part of the building? Otherwise, it's really going to affect workplace production.
Yeah, I understand that. Look, you really need to do a practice evacuation drill that tests your evacuation coordination procedures. So if you can do that by doing part of the building, then that's fine. Regulation will accept that as being compliant. But the Australian Standard 3745 says that you should include every person in the building in an evacuation practice drill at least once every 12 months. So therefore, if you do part of the building, then you're going to have to do multiple evacuation drills so you can capture everybody.
What if someone refuses to evacuate during the evacuation practice drill?
Obviously, everyone should be involved in the practice evacuation drill, and if someone refuses to be involved when an evacuation drill's occurring, then the warden for that area should take their name, probably put in a report to the Emergency Planning Committee and make sure that management's notified of that refusal. Exemptions can be given. Obviously, there are some times when a person needs to be involved in other work and can't be involved in the drill, but that exemption should be given prior to the drill being conducted.
Do I need to give notice of an evacuation practice drill, or can I just surprise them?
A lot of people think it's a good idea just to surprise them, but in actual fact it's not. You should really give them some notice, and that notice doesn't need to be 3 months, 3 weeks, or even 3 minutes. But all persons being involved in an evacuation practice drill should know just that. It is a practice drill and not the real thing. So that prior notice could be simply using the PA system and saying, we're about to conduct an evacuation practice drill now, and then setting off the evacuation tones that way.
Do I need to record each practice evacuation drill?
Yes, it is a requirement of the Building Fire Safety Regulation that every time you conduct a practice evacuation drill that it is recorded. You must record the date that it happened, the time that it started, the time that it was completed, and who was in charge of the evacuation practice drill at the time. And obviously you'd want to keep records of anything that didn't go quite right, so when you have your Emergency Planning Committee meeting, then those issues could be raised. It's also a requirement under the regulation that you keep those records for a minimum of 2 years on site.
Are there any forms or documents that can assist me when conducting an evacuation practice drill?
Yeah, there are a number of forms that can help you with that. There's an observer's checklist that obviously if you're going to do a practice evacuation drill, you could appoint observers to oversee the drill and record the information as it occurs on an observer's checklist. And there's also a practice evacuation record form that can be downloaded from the QFRS website if required.
I've heard people speak about the 3 stages of an evacuation. What does this mean?
Well, depending on the type of building, if it's a multi-storey building or maybe a healthcare facility, a full evacuation may not be practicable. So in that instance, you could stage the evacuation. Stage 1 would be remove people from the immediate danger. Stage 2 may be removing people from that floor or area to the other side of fire doors and fire walls. And stage 3 would be a full evacuation of the whole premises.
Should I conduct a debrief meeting after each practice evacuation drill?
Yes, look, that's really important to have a meeting after, and as soon as practicable after the evacuation practice drill has concluded. That should be chaired by the Chief Warden, and it should include all members of the emergency control organisations who are involved in the evacuation practice drill. And this is where the observers' checklists come in handy. They could also be presented at the debrief meeting, and all things that went well could be highlighted. The things that could have been done better could also be looked at, and so next time the evacuation drill happens, then it'll all be done all the better.
So if I was planning to conduct an evacuation practice drill, what are the key points that I should consider?
Okay, the things that you'd need to consider would be make sure your wardens are properly trained, that they understand what their roles and functions are. Give them a briefing if it's their first time so they understand what's required of them. If it's a multi-tenanted building, then make sure that the other occupants in the building are aware that it is a practice evacuation drill. You'd also want to consider appointing those observers to make sure they can oversee what's going on, keep a record of the practice evacuation drill. Also to give the persons prior notice, and as I said, if there's a PA system fitted within the building, make a PA announcement to tell people that it is a practice evacuation drill. And then just oversee it and make sure everything runs right. And of course, very important, have that debrief meeting at the end to make sure that all the important points are covered and discussed.
Great. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Well, now that it's clear what's actually required, I hope this makes your next evacuation drill much easier to organise. To find out more about this subject, or any other fire and safety compliance matters, please contact Concept Safety Systems.
Book your free assessment today.